Hi there, my name is Julia and I'm from JMC Designs. So I've been asked to make a little project with you, which is very exciting because I'm used to being on your side of the camera, not this side of the camera. So I hope you enjoy crafting with me. I'm going to look at making a little tag with you today, and we're going to look at how effective it is to layer your stamps together. So let's get started. Okay, so to make this tag we're going to use 3 stamp sets from the JMC Designs collection, 2 from the Craftella collection. We're going to be using the Sally Stitch and the Stitching Pretty. Just lift that because the light is reflecting on that a little bit. So those are going to be our feature elements, and to build the background element we are going to use Stamp-Lementals Edition 3. Now Stamp-Lementals have been designed so that they have everything that you need in one stamp set. So quite often when I make anything, whether it be a card, a tag, a journal page, I always like there to be a background element, I always like there to be some sort of floral element, and I always like there to be a sentiment, and I spend quite a lot of my time sort of rummaging around through all my background stamps, then through all my floral stamps, then through my sentiment stamps, and I want to be getting on with crafting, so I kind of had a bit of an epitome moment and thought, what if they were all on one stamp plate? So that is kind of what I've designed these for. Now, I'm not wanting to stamp this perfectly. This is a sort of nuance that's in the background. So firstly, I'm not bothered about how much ink I'm actually getting onto my stamp. And I'm also not going to stamp using a block. There's no way I'm going to get a perfect stamp doing it this way. Now that's a lot brighter than I was expecting, but that's okay. We will work with it. I never throw anything away. There we go. So that is me got a little bit of a background element on there, and then to tie that together and to make it all work, I'm going to use the same ink. Sorry, I keep trying to move this. So this is the difference of not filming in the Hochanda studios. You're with me, you are with me in the north of Scotland, in Inverness, in my craft room, crafting along with me, which is just lovely. But it does mean I'm getting a bit of a reflection issue there, which I am trying my best to avoid. Now actually, as I am blending here, it's sort of smudging the actual stamping, but that's fine because it's all going to add to the interest of it. So when I'm blending, I'm spending a bit of time sort of getting the ink off my mat and into my brush, because it needs to be into the brush for it to end up on the paper. And so it's kind of worth spend a bit of time doing that. I'm just creating a bit of a vignette and drawing everything together. Oops. Just by doing that, and then I'm going to get this shiny thing off. There we go. That'll be a bit easier. Sorry about that. Okay, so now I'm going to pull in a scrap bit of paper, and we've got fingerprints and everything in there. Seriously, it's all going on in there. So again, don't panic. I wouldn't look at that now and think, oh my goodness, I've put thumbprints in it. It's gone. In fact, on the Hochanda website, I think it's Pretty Gets Gritty, she has a thumbprint stamp. So just view it as added texture, and as I said, at this point we're only looking at the background elements anyway. We're not looking at the focal, so that is all just going to again sort of be a nuance that's in the background. It's not going to be sort of what you're going to see first. Normally what you stamp first isn't necessarily what you're going to see first. So now I'm going to build it up. So now I'm using stamps from the Stitching Pretty stamp collection, and I'm going to give this a little button border. So I'm just going to keep repeat stamping down here, and as I said, we're going to create a bit of a border. Now, this is actually the second time off. I'm going to let you into a little secret here. This is the second time I filmed this. And the first time, I was really well prepared. And I had sort of, here's one I've made earlier going on. But I recorded with no sound. I had a bit of a technical issue. So now I'm doing it again. And I don't have all my here's ones I prepared earlier. So we're definitely doing this in real time. So it's fun and games. It's the joys. It's reality, and that's the thing. We all craft in reality. We all craft when we have these little ups and downs, and we all get them. So think it's good for you to know about them. Right, so that's me just created a little bit of a button border there. Now in the same stamp set we have this little stamp here, which is a little needle with a flower. So I've tried to make this set really quirky. It's like it's all flowers and things, but there is that sort of element of the soft craft. So this comes in the Sally Stitch collection here. Now in this I'm going right over those buttons, and at this minute it's going to look like a big hot mess, but please do not worry about that at all. Basically I'm trying to make this look like a border or a field of flowers, and flowers wouldn't grow in a straight line, so I'm deliberately making sure that they're at different heights. If they end up at a funny angle, that's okay too. If they end up overlapping, that's okay too. We're just wanting to give that effect of almost that she's, well, we're going to be putting one of the girls on, we're going to be putting Sally Stitch on, but that she's sort of standing in a little patchwork meadow with, you know, sewing bees and needle and button flowers, because why not? That would just be a lovely place to be. Right, so I have stamped that now. Now I would heat set that, but hopefully we will have a little bit of time. Hopefully it'll just calm itself down by the time we've done the buttons. We'll see. So I'm going to bring my mat back in. As you can see, I've not cleaned it. Oh, that's quite good. Right, so I'm going to bring in some Ecoline pens. I know that these are on the website. So I'm just going to colour some up, a little bit of colour down. And this time I'm using my Ecoline pens, not in their pen, but as a bit of a watercolour palette. So I've just scribbled that onto my mat, and I'm going to grab a paintbrush. And I'm just going to get some water. Now I'm actually doing the buttons, so we're just going to add a little bit of colour to some of these buttons here. Now I'm not worried again about perfection here. Actually the text and stuff underneath is going to move because we use Distress ink, and Distress ink is a water based, and we're now putting water on it, so it will move a little bit, and that's okay. It just sort of follows the look that we are going for, and yeah, so we don't want to worry about things like that overly much. And I'll pop some orange ones in here as well, because why not? It's actually quite dark orange, that. So this is the advantage of having your Ecolines on a mat like this. I'm actually going to take a little bit of orange and mix it into that yellow, because I think I want a brighter I think I want a brighter orange. See, that's fine, that's lifted that a lot better. I like that colour a lot more. So again, it's kind of looking at it and thinking, right, okay, if it's not working the way you want, we can change it up. Let's colour some of these circles as well. So this is the point where in the previous film that had no sound, so I guess it wouldn't be overly helpful for you. I had a sort of here's one I did earlier part, but it just didn't happen this time, so sorry about that. But sometimes it's nice to see the whole process, isn't it? Right, so that's me coloured my buttons in there. And what I have done is, when it comes to these little flowers, what I've actually done is I have stamped them and coloured them in and cut them out. And so I'm going to add the detail this time by you know, using images that I have stamped and coloured out. I'm just going to move my water bottle out of your way there. Okay, and I'm going to attempt to activate my glue. Do you know, last time I was on Hochanda, this was happening and everyone was laughing at me saying I should really get some new glue, and I really should. There we go. I thought I was going to stop the camera there, but we've managed. Right, so thankfully that button that I wasn't overly keen on how the orange turned out, we're covering anyway, so this is why it's not worth stressing if things aren't quite right. Now, I could have masked these. I didn't have to sort of stamp all over the place. So why have I chosen to you know, colour it all out and then fussy cut it all out. Well, one thing I do actually quite like fussy cutting. It's quite relaxing, so it's a technique that I go for. And the other thing is I am trying to build layers. I'm not particularly wanting this to be a flat project. If it was, I would have gone for that masking technique. But because I'm kind of wanting layers and dimension and things like that, I have chosen to cut them out on this occasion. So we've got 2 left. Right, so I'll pop those on like so. And now we can see that everything's sort of come together a little bit more as well. And I've just realised probably what I should have done, which I'll just show you, but we can, well, maybe not, as maybe I should have just added a little bit of extra shadowing to the needles, like so, just to highlight those. Okay, so we've done that. Now I'm going to grab a Sally stitch, and so quite a lot of my thumb marks were in there. I said not to worry about it, because look, it's it's amazing that you just don't notice these little things by the time we end up sort of finishing our project. So I'm going to pop some glue on her. So I know I was asked before about how I colour my images, and these have all been coloured using alcohol markers. So there we go. Right, I'm going to just pop a bit of glue behind there, get her stuck down. Now, I wanted her flat because I'm actually going to over stamp her slightly with a sentiment that is in the Sally stitch, so the same stamp set that she came from. And we are just going to stamp onto that. So I'm putting some ink onto my stamp there, and I think I quite like it near the tape measure. So I'm just going to stamp. Now I'm just going to hold this. Quite often when it comes to stamping directly onto a project, we can be a bit nervous. I know I always was, and I always stamped off the project and then put it on. But I've become more confident, and it's in realising that you actually need to allow time for the ink to go from the stamp to the paper. And if you do that, you don't tend to have a problem. Sometimes we panic and we can squish it too hard, especially with words. But we just need to give it a bit of time. And that was probably more time than I needed, but it's because I was kind of explaining. But we can see, even though we've kind of got a bit of a step, so like I've put that girl over, so it was on 2 levels, we've still ended up with a really clear stamp. So one of the main things about stamping that might be a problem is just down to maybe a little bit of patience. Just give it time. Just recognise, if you just think about the logic of it, the ink is on the stamp, we want it on the paper, so we just need it time to do its thing. Okay, I'm now going to use a pen. This is a Jane Davenport one. I know these have been on the website because I watched whilst they were on the website longingly, and as you can see, ended up getting them. But any sort of black micron pen, anything that you have, even a black biro, if that's what you've got, that is fine. And what I'm doing is doing like a faux stitching just to finish that off. So the way I do a faux stitch is I draw a little circle and pull a line from it, and I think that gives it sort of like a hand stitched look. And especially as we've kind of got a bit of a sewing theme going on, I thought that worked quite well. So we'll just keep bringing that all the way around the tag. And the reason that I like to do a border of some description is it helps to draw the eye into your project. It helps to frame it, and it's amazing the difference that a frame can make. If you think about photographs that you have, they look great on your phone, but it's amazing the difference in a photo frame, you know. And that's the same sort of thing that we're doing. The last thing I'm going to do, oh no, I've just realised I've not put my bumblebees on. We'll do that in a second. So I'm just going to do some faux cross stitches just there, and again I just think it's a little detail that adds to that sort of fun stitch theme. You can imagine this tag on a gift for somebody who likes their soft crafts or something like that, that it could be really fun. So I've got my little sewing bee, had to have a sewing bee. If you think about, like, you know, what do you call a group of people that get together and sew? It's a sewing bee. And I love bumblebees anyway. so it had to be done. So we've got a little bumblebee here with a tape measure on it, and we will pop those like so. Right, so I'll take this messy paper from behind, and you can see that there, like so. Okay, so thank you so much for joining me in my craft room right here in the north of Scotland. If you have enjoyed watching this and fancy making it yourself, you'll find everything you need on the Hochanda website.